budget session. And the first item on the agenda is the capital improvement plan.
Mayor Moe, members of the commission. Capital Planning Committee met last week to go over what is presented before you. And Devin is here to kind of give you the past, present, future details on each project, why we're going to do them, when we're going to do them. And then I'll go over and communicate how we intend to pay for these over the course of time. Big shout out to Devin. You know, a lot of communities our size or even slightly smaller will pay an engineering firm about 10 grand to do this, and he did it in the busiest time of his job here this summer with all the construction projects going on. So big shout out to Devin and Mike for all the work they did into this, and all the details don't just manifest themselves by themselves, and a lot of work and detail goes into it. So I guess, Devin, I would turn it over to you, and then once you guys are done asking questions to Devin on some of the details you may have, we'll go over funding.
Thanks, Spencer. In front of everybody should have we did a little printout, has our capital improvement plan for 24 to 29. A little overview of what's included in there. We have a yearly summary of the projects by types, dollar amounts, local share, non-local share, a detailed summary breaking down what roads from here to here, the lengths, the widths, the price, and then a couple maps showing what we've done in the past for roadway, what we've done in the past for water main, and then kind of a nice little map for each year to just give you a quick visual of the work that's being done. We'll kind of just go through. I don't want to get into too much detail. There's a lot of information in here. There's a lot of stuff. We met last week, kind of hammered out the framework. We got a pretty good plan to kind of stay on track with roadways, water mains, keep ourselves in a pretty good position, you know, to keep working on what we've been working on. 2024, we've got projects in place right now. We've got our water main project we're finishing up on the south side. On top of that, we've got our mill and overlay on the west side, which is much needed. That's starting here in about a week. And then the other big one this summer is going to be Stromquist back South Highway 2 there. All that gravel section is now getting pavement, curb and gutter, a much needed project for a while. Finally getting done with some help from some federal dollars to help us kind of facilitate that. Those projects have been scheduled. They're bid out. They're ready to go. They're going to be done this year. We'll go through what's planned for the future. If you look at pages 2, 3, and 4, that'll give you kind of a breakdown by mill and overlay, seal coat, water main, miscellaneous, just kind of an overview of what it's going to take and what it's going to cost. We've got some big projects scheduled for next year as well. Mill and overlay to kind of catch up. All around town, we've got some streets that have gotten missed, some avenue, you know, we're going to work our way through, try to get those as best we can. Seal coat some of the old asphalt in town. Give a little protection, and then 14th and 14th up by Ruger Park, hoping to pave that next year with some federal dollars that we got. So we did a gravel job last year, rebuilt that, so it's a little, we don't have to close it every spring like we've been in the past. We're hoping to pave that next summer and kind of hopefully maybe get some growth up there. You'll see down in the miscellaneous, we've included some of the DOT projects. The big one next year will be College Drive. They're going to microsurface. As part of that, they're looking at doing a road diet, maybe switching from a 4-lane to a 2-lane with a center turn lane. Update some traffic signals, some pedestrian signals, school lighting, all sorts of stuff like that. And then the other big one would be downtown parking lots and alleys. The alleys have been needing it for a long time. We got most of the parking lots done. We're going to finish out the rest of them. That's all scheduled for next year.
How hard are you guys going to hit the sidewalks?
What was that?
Sidewalk replacements? How hard are you going to hit that? Because there's a lot of sidewalk that's just crap.
Downtown or just in general in town?
In general in town.
Yeah, we've got, I think we're right around $60,000, $70,000 a year every year that we do. We try to get to. When we get to it, if maybe we put a little bit of a bigger project together to kind of get some of that stuff. We've got our program where we split 50-50, go around, help people out. This summer's been a little slow just with rain and weather, and it's hard to do concrete. But yeah, we've been we've been doing about $75,000 worth the last, at least since I've been here the last 6-7 years. So trying to prioritize school areas, heavy pedestrian areas, and then slowly work our way out to kind of get some more. So,
'Cause I've seen a lot of it that's just cracking and coming apart in pieces.
and I think this last winter wreaked havoc on a lot of things with the freeze thaws, and some stuff moved quite a bit. So there's a lot more popping up this year than we've anticipated. So we've got that sidewalk program scheduled every year for as far as we can go. So we'll continue to hammer some of that stuff out. 26, we got some more projects scheduled there. That'll be kind of for us, a quiet one, just some paving that year. The big one would be Highway 2 frontage roads. Looking at redoing those. Those have been needed for a bit. So that'll be a state job, federal job. We'll do it ourselves. And then mill and overlay south side where we're doing the water main now, Mid-H area, clean those up. 27, we got a mill and overlay. That one's kind of a quiet year for us right now. We're looking at applying for some grant stuff for downtown, maybe the industrial park, fill those gaps. But until we have the money, we don't want to plan stuff too much. 28, we got another mill and overlay project, and then the big one would be looking at expanding the inert landfill. We're running out of capacity up there. We need to kind of plan ahead, get things going there. We got that scheduled out for a few years. And then the last one we've got scheduled is a water main replacement project. Kind of get the last of the cast iron in town. Hopefully, that should be one of the last water main jobs we do for a while. So we're in a pretty good spot if that's all we've got left. On the summary sheet, you can see the breakdown, what we're paying total. Non-local share is going to be federal aid, state aid, anything we can get from anybody to help out. Pretty good dollar amount for us for the next 5 years at $25 million worth of work. But for us to only have to cover about half of that, we try our best to make sure we keep the federal aid, the urban grant programs going, and make sure we're getting what we can out of the state and the feds. If you want to go into more detail, you can go down the next few pages. That'll give you exactly where we're going, how we're doing it. And then the maps, you got the two big ones. A lot of colors, a lot of lines, shows where we've been, what we've done. We're pretty happy back there on how much we've gotten done in the last, 10 years. I mean, I think you can look at the map and see that pretty much every road's been touched, in the last 20 years, which is where you want to be with the roadways. So we're in a good spot. We got some work to do still, no question, but we like where we're at. So
I really like where you're at. You've come a long way. You've made a lot of communities wish they were in the area, in our situation. You've done well with the funding that we've been receiving.
And that's a big part. We've been given the opportunity to do it, so we like doing it.
Yeah.
The rest of them are just kind of yearly maps, just some nice visuals to kind of see a little breakdown by year of what's what. Not a lot of detail, just always nice to be able to see what's happening. You can look at a spreadsheet. Might not always mean something, but that's kind of the breakdown. Outside of that, we've got some kind of miscellaneous projects we've kind of added separately. If we need to fill in the cracks where we've got some storm sewer lift stations, some sanitary sewer lift stations we can include, but as the funding becomes available, we've got stuff to plug in the holes. So if you got any questions or need help walking through anything, let me know.
Tell you, we're very lucky being in the position we are. And this started years ago, and great that they had the foresight to do that. Thank God for the prairie dog funding. That's been helpful. Let's hope that continues after this upcoming vote so that we can continue with these projects, because that would be not to our benefit if that money is to go away. So
The state will take care of it.
we have to encourage the people to understand what they're voting for at the time when they vote. So, any other questions about that for Devin or anything? Nice job on this. Nice report.
And we'll put it up. I think last year's is up on the website. We'll put the same one up on the website. People can look at it if they want to take a look at it. So send them out. Good to go.
Thank you for that.
And thank all the guys and gals out there that are doing this work too, because it's not an easy job. They're out there in the heat, in the cold.
Yeah, I don't do much. I watch. They do all the hard work. So
Thank them for
Typical supervisor.
yep, classic supervisor.
Well, thank you, Devin. Next item is the equipment replacement plan. That would be you, Spencer.
Do you want to go over how we're going to pay for it, or we want to
Just kind of summarize over, I mean, whatever the commission wants, they'll have questions.
it's all, I'll just go really quick, real high level. 4 buckets. We have the prairie dog funding. And so we're operating on the assumption that we're going to get that 3.5 million that is estimated to come to us in early 2025. And then assumes that we would get that first bucket, that 2.5 million in the second year of every biennium moving forward. And really, if you get that extra million on top, that's icing on the cake. And we're going to have to go back to the drawing board if that property tax referendum goes through and they eliminate prairie dog. We're going to have to go back to the drawing board. But that's just a wait and see. We have the city sales tax, which assumes that we're allocating 32.5% of our sales tax. We have the current projections for 2024, and then what's budgeted for 2025, and then 2% increase thereafter. And then, so that's the general infrastructure. And then really the water source replacement fund. I'll try give you the Cliff Notes version of it, but really it's money that's set aside in case we ever need to change our water source and making sure that every generation is paying into it. Gonna pursue, and it's really gonna be a commission decision to do, but I'm gonna propose that kind of a new policy on how we approach this fund, because we can continue to collect that revenue and just that bank account will get bigger and bigger and bigger and bigger. But to kind of set a policy of, we always want that fund to be greater than 3 million. But anything beyond 3 million, we can use for water-related projects like water mains. With the idea that if we're going to have to change our water source, we're going to have some sort of a cost share, and we're going to know 5-6 years in advance. And so we can make sure that we don't use that fund for those projects. We bring in that $275,000 every year over the course of 5 years. There's another $1 million. So now you're going to battle with $4.2 million, which should be an adequate funding source for any local share of a change to water source, and certainly would be enough to finance over a long period of time. And so what we're going to propose and kind of need the commission's concurrence that we plan to pay for West Side Water Main using this fund. Yeah, and this fund has been used for water main projects in the past. I went and I looked. And then probably going to look to finance the water main replacement on the south side. And we bring in $275,000 in that fund. If we finance that project, the expenses would probably be somewhere around that $160,000 to $180,000 each payment would be. And so depending on interest rate, and then basically financing against that fee over the course of 10 years or so. And you'd still be netting close to $100,000 and growing that fund. That's really one way we want to approach that, to make sure, number one, we're using the fund as it was originally justified, but also not just growing an infinite pot of money to never be used.
Would any of this be able to be used for those lift station updates that we talked about the last?
Those are storm related. We have storm lift stations and the sewer lift stations. I don't know if I don't know if that would be considered water source, right? I feel comfortable using the water mains, and it's been used for water mains before. I'd have to have a conversation with Mike in that
Because you
regard.
mentioned your
I
concern.
think the money was able to be used for that, yes.
It's just something to look and see what,
Yeah.
what upgrades could be done safety wise.
Yeah, it can be used.
But just something to look into.
And then Public Buildings Reserve Fund, this is something that was created by the commission back in 2022. And we put an original $350,000 in it. We're going to have another substantial transfer to it this year. And what we really would like to do is kind of earmark $500,000 to touch up City Hall. We need new lighting, an ADA accessible entrance, carpet, some new furniture, those
Some
sorts of things.
technology
Commission,
issues, some-
we need an overhaul of the commission chambers. That'll probably be the first thing that we do. Number one, for user interface with the public, commissioners as well, and city staff. And we want to put on a more modernized, respectable approach to how we have our desks and those sorts of things. interact with the public in this.
When's the last time this building was updated?
Oh, it's been a while.
I can tell you.
Before you were born.
Probably, that's why it's a good selling point, that something, the building's been used for so long, it hasn't been
It's been a while.
treated
I mean,
for.
when you think about it.
Outside of like the renovations, it used to be the garage back there. They opened that up, but
Yep.
probably since we moved in
It's insane.
'70s. Right?
Yeah, I'm trying to think.
Late
When
70s, I
it
think
used to be an Otter Tail building. The Otter Tail Power.
That's good.
So,
And a appliance store. It
This
was
is
dual.
probably where the appliances were at.
Over that door there that you can see patched in, that was the appliance store.
Kind of aging yourself, Jim?
That looks like it.
Mine
Yeah.
sounds like before my time as well.
Yeah. Okay, I am aging myself. You're far behind.
No, I'm not.
And really want to set in a cadence, a yearly transfer. Right now, we have $80,000 moving forward out of the general infrastructure fund to this public building, so that we always have money for when we got leaky roofs and everything. We don't have to kind of scramble every time that comes up.
But there was talk at one time to expand into that parking or vacant lot next to us. But that turned into being a substantial amount of money. And right now, given the times and the, struggles and some other increases that are affecting all our, residents,
Yeah,
it's probably not the time to be looking at doing something like that. So it's probably more worthwhile spending the money on a
Take care of what you
a
can.
little remodel than it is and get by with what we.
I agree.
And so really with that, when you guys, we're going to put this before you at the August 5th meeting for you guys to approve this capital improvement plan. When you approve that capital improvement plan, that kind of gives us a green light to work up some plans of what we're going to do here, get your guys' input, involvement, and just basically we're going to go and start making improvements. We've kind of been touching and going and making incremental stuff here, but really once construction season ends, kind of enable all the pertinent city staff members and commissioners to create a plan and get to action on it. So, and the only other thing is, if you look at these projects, sometimes you'll see the projects in a certain year, but we have the payment in a different year. Sometimes those expenses bleed into future years. So just trying to lay that all out. And, if things change, then we have to adapt. These are plans, but everybody knows the Mike Tyson line, and we'll adapt as needed. But really big thank you to Mike and Devin for all the work they do.
Well, thank you also for the financial work that you put towards it also. So I think our capital plan is probably one of the best that's in the state right now. So, having this available and having an idea what is important and a lot of input from everybody in the departments. So
that's why when I said to a lot of people, when that whole flower thing was going on, I said, if our city's biggest worry is the flowers downtown being the biggest problem, the city's doing pretty damn good. You know what I mean? And it is. And it's to everybody that's doing the work. I mean,
and they're gorgeous downtown,
yeah,
by
they
the way.
are. But
We got a lot to be proud of in this community. We really do.
Yeah, we do.
We've helped out a lot of different agencies and groups that need funding and
And
supporting.
For your
And,
swapping them and finding those funds to be able to do it. So,
so is there any questions on the capital improvement plan?
Well, I saw this mill levy stuff that we're talking about. Is you gonna do any presentation on that, or you want to make? some
It's an
comments?
agenda item. It's
Yeah,
the last agenda.
Yeah, towards the
item.
bottom.
Okay.
Yeah, general review.
Oh, okay. Yeah, I
We
got
can, yeah, okay. So if nothing else on the capital improvement, now we'll go into the equipment replacement schedule, if that's okay? Ready? Okay. Spencer, I suppose that's
Again,
on you.
It's something that we kind of do every year, making sure that 2024s and 2025s are reflected what we have in the budget. But really made an effort last year to have everybody and all the departments, Chief Kanowski, heavily involved and he's the police chief, but trying to set course plans so that we know what we're going to need and when we're going to need it as far as significant overhaul or significant equipment purchases. Really just real quick, I'll run through the higher ticket item. We created an IT infrastructure one. We're going to have to replace firewalls and trying to get the computers. And then I think it was kind of a lesson learned when we kind of got to note that, hey, the city server is going to go beyond its useful life. In 6 months, you needed to replace it with an $80,000 expenditure and we didn't have an account that had it. We just had to pay for it. So we're trying to lay the groundwork so that in, 6-7 years when that comes due again, we have the money in a pot there. Fire department, the biggest expense coming up 2027, we have the SCBA's in 2027 with the 50% cost share with the volunteers at $160,000, laying the groundwork so that we can pay for those. And then Nate's got a rotation of PPE cost shares at 50% with the volunteers that he wants to kind of get on a cadence every year. So we make sure that fire equipment stays up to snuff. Police department, 2 vehicles here in 2025. And then Chief Toso really did a really good job of kind of detailing out, oftentimes we come in every year, it's like, okay, we got to replace the body cams, we got to replace the body armor, we got to replace our duty weapons, tasers, those sorts of things. And so trying to lay out long-term what we really need to pay for those when they come due. And so really trying to, we have 28,000, 31,000, per year that we kind of want to throw away. 2025 budget reflects 25 thrown away. And police and fire used to not have an equipment reserve. We've created, the commission through their past decision making has created these, which I think is allowing us to put forward long-term plans together. And
So
so
most of that money that's in the reserves are paid from the interest that we're getting on our
equipment reserve, yeah.
Yep.
If no questions on police or fire, streets is pretty run of the mill. Water department, we have in 2020 hold on here. Oh yeah, water department, big one. 2026, we're gonna have to get a mini excavator for $175,000.
At that
That's
time,
an-
probably double that price.
I tried to, we tried to put a little bit of a $5,000 to $10,000 increment in there.
Okay.
Water and sewer, the big one, and Mary, you can attest to this given your past days with the city, but we're going to have to, in the 2027, 2028 timeline, replace that jetter vacuum truck. And that's a $700,000 piece of equipment. We're laying the groundwork right now so that we can be able to pay for that in cash at the time.
It's an important piece of equipment because otherwise it requires people to go down inside these manholes and shovel it by hand.
Yeah.
So
Who wants to do
if
it?
anybody wants to understand what they're doing, it's,
What's that old adage? If your leader will do it, but if your leader won't do it, you don't expect somebody else to do it.
exactly.
The mayor,
I used to do it.
get back at it.
Pretty sure I was sick that day.
Okay. If you've ever never seen it operate, it's usually sitting in the middle of a block and it's got a lot of loud noise. And Brandon, you used to run it, didn't you?
Oh, yeah.
Yeah. It's important to have that piece of truck, yeah, right?
A lot of bad people and sewage is running in their basement. And you have no way to leave.
So
We used to do it by hand though, when I started.
There you go, aging yourself again.
Well, might as well.
So you think
Like I
about-
say, I started 30 feet underground, I made it to the top. So,
people, the expensive equipment we have, you think fire trucks, police vehicles, all that sort of stuff. Well, there's a $700,000 piece of equipment that a lot of people probably don't know that we have.
and don't realize how important it is. Yeah.
And then sanitation department just have $300,000 budgeted for next year as a contribution to that new truck, automated truck that we intend to pursue. So that's what I have as far as the equipment replacement plan. And really, primarily, just want to show and communicate to you guys that we are thinking further down. We're thinking further down the line than just 2025. We're thinking about 2026, 27, 28, and the department heads are putting the work in to plan for those long term in their department. So. You welcome any questions if you have them. Otherwise, I'm ready when you are, Aaron.
Okay, we'll move on to the debt schedule review.
Just a different way to present all that. I segregated the sales tax revenue debt that we have and the special assessment tax increment finance debt that we have. Just a different way to communicate it. As sometimes it's when you do it fund by fund, you don't get a good picture of the whole. You don't get a good view of the whole picture, and so just did that. That's just more informational. And making sure that we're kind of always above that 30% as our reserves as a percent of principal remaining. So
Anybody have any questions? Okay, well, that's good. Well, okay. Our next item is regarding the city administrator classification schedule. And as one of our meetings last 2 weeks or 2 meetings ago, I brought up the comment about the administrator being, the top employee is higher graded than our administrator. And we discussed the fact that we should probably have a review of that with the vice president and the president of the commission, along with Tanya and the city administrator. We had that meeting and we had the discussion about what would be to the best interest of the city. And we talked about contract. There's some cities that have contracts. Some are also civil service. And our current administrator is civil service. And we looked at the contract and we really didn't see any real advantages. Yep. Add in wherever, Rob, if you will, that it was best after a discussion with Spencer and whether or not it would be, he'd like contract or be in the scale. It was really not a big problem either way, but after he slept on it and talked to his wife about it, he came back and said he's okay being in the city scale and being as a civil service person. So I guess I would recommend that we'd place him into the grade 22 scale and at the B position, which would allow him for about the cost of living increase that he would have normally got in the spot that he was at. And then he can work his way up the grade scale there and then be equal to the highest level position within our city. So anybody have any
I
questions?
concur with that.
Yeah, I would agree with that. Do we need a motion for that or?
I think it'll get all
It'll be
approved
embedded. It'll be
within the
embedded.
budget
It'll
process.
be embedded when you approve the budget.
Okay,
So,
yeah, I would agree with that. That makes
I
kind
agree.
of sense.
I just bringing it up now so you guys have an understanding and you can read it and you may have questions later or whatever, but that is the outcome of our meeting so if nobody has any questions, that will take care of
That was
that.
agreed upon with Tanya too, I see.
Yes, yeah, she had no problem with it. And she researched the other cities too, so that,
Right.
and probably the biggest advantage of being a contract is its termination time. You can
Right.
get rid of them easier.
Right.
So,
You still need cause anyhow. on those.
yeah, but then you're paying out
Yeah.
a benefit package too, so. Anyway, and I don't think we've had any issues the way it's been, so.
Not yet.
Okay, so if there's no other questions, that's that. And now it boils down to the last item, the general fund and the mill levy overview. So Spencer?
Yeah, Mayor Mo, members of the commission, and so included, just so you know, a few changes made. Lowered the rodeo from the 15,000 to the 10,000. Brandon and I had a phone call and believe the highest level sponsorship was 7,500. And so we were the premier for that first couple of years. And we had that conversation about, do we want to just pump the brakes a little bit, that gotten going and whatnot. And so had lowered that from 15 to 10 for the conversation at the previous meeting. Then increased by 8,000 the computer line item, as Rob Johnson and I spoke in the back, and we do have to replace our firewalls next year. So wanted to add a little extra in there. And then we did add $2,000 in out-of-state travel to the commission line, or to the commission budget, and then 2,000 to the auditing budget. Met with some folks at the League of Cities, and they're trying to put on a kind of a bigger North Dakota delegation that goes to DC for that national conference, meets with the state legislators. And so just thought, if it would please the commission, the mayor and I had kind of had an urge to either him and or I go as part of that delegation next year with the North Dakota League of Cities to meet with the congressional delegation. So did include those two things in there. And that leaves you with that. And then, just showed you a mill levy breakdown on that last page. Keeping the mill levy flat at 91.11 mils, and then have the allocations up there on the top as well. Percent increase in dollars, and given kind of what everybody had communicated as their needs and things that were previously agreed upon, i.e. the airport, talking with the library, what we have needs over at the Job Development Authority, and then what we're trying to do in the general fund in the effort to fund what we're doing, but keep the mills flat. That's what's presented before you. So that kind of puts a bow on everything, Mayor, and so I would turn it over to you and the commission for questions and guidance and direction.
Well, I appreciate what you did. You put together a great budget, keeping in mind that, the times are, there's a lot of things going on in our community right now, given the school increase, which is, we're all supportive of. We also got the evaluation of the commercial properties, and I know that those are some vital things that have to take place. And so keeping in mind what the citizens can afford, and we want to do our part is to minimize the increases to our budget as best as we can. But, so I appreciate your hard work on it and listening to what the commission is kind of hoping that we keep our expenses down as best we can and go from there.
Good question, Joe. About the mill.
Yeah, I've got so, we've increased our commercial evaluations of 14%. After our evaluations from Rob and whatnot. And overall was like a 9% increase for everybody. With the increase that we're going to see from the schools, that was just fine, and I understood that because I work there. But that, with the upgrade, now you talk about the ambulance service, that's, we got to have increase in that. And I don't know what the county is going to do. Would it be advantageous for us to look at, reducing our mills? Maybe possibly, because ultimately we got to do what we can to, the financial burden that's coming upon us, and God knows what the property tax is going to do with tax and the vote. Is there something that you can come up with that maybe we can reduce those mills? So maybe our property tax can not take such a hit, because, I pay enough, I think, in property tax. And if we can reduce that, why don't we do that? As a commission.
And I think it is incumbent to us to do exactly what we can to do that. And, knowing that our mills are going up in value as it is.
Right.
So they are going up. So if we can cut the mills down and just make it as flat as we can, that's important, that show good faith that we're doing our
If
part.
we can function at a certain level,
Mhm.
well, why don't we try to do that? We can continually reduce if we can and function at this level. I understand if we're not making it, you know what I mean? But if we are,
But I think there's a couple places that we can reduce, that we could probably at least reduce it by one or so, or two, maybe.
well, that's, what do you think?
I think, you look at the dollar amount increase, right? So that 2023 to 2024, we had essentially a 0% increase. And then, inflation was high. And so, between 2024 and 2025, we're proposing that 11.3% in the dollar amount. I don't think it's unreasonable to say, hey, we probably shouldn't go more than 10% 1 year. And so I would suspect that, I think, I did the math, that 1% is about 1 mil, right? And so between now and Monday, I'll see where we could maybe trim maybe that 1% increase, get it to a 10%, and that would then be that 1 mil decrease. And I do think it's just, compiling everybody's needs of what they had communicated originally, and with to make sure that we don't have an increase for sure, right? That was what we kind of come up with. But if all things considered, and certainly there's a lot going on in the community, especially property tax related, I don't think that, I think we could probably get you something in that vision.
Okay.
Okay, would that be good?
If we can, we may as well try.
And we understand, Brandon, I hope you understand too, that we're just, we get a lot of people wanting more money, and as long as you're kind of doing well,
Yeah, no, can I speak to that? I just want to.
Yeah,
Please come to the
sure.
microphone.
Please come to the podium. Yeah, you may. I appreciate you coming here.
Yeah, no, commissioners, thanks for letting me come speak to us making money. So at the end of every year that we have the rodeo, right, we go through and we pay our list of bills, and we do end up with a little bit of extra money. With that being said, we don't keep that money. We donate that out to, whether it be the Boy Scouts, whether it be the Girl Scouts, 4-H, any other charitable organizations that, we've heard that are reaching out and asking for some funding, we give that to them. And then whatever is left after that, that money just gets reinvested into the next event that we have to grow it, to make it bigger, to bring more people here. Since 2021, when we started this, 22 when we started this, our payouts started at $20,000 for across 10 events for 3 days. And this year we're at 27,500. We saw an increase of about 60 contestants from the first year to the second year. This year we're already looking at, just by listening to word on the street, we're probably I wouldn't be surprised if we come close to doubling our contestant load this year. So you go from, 200 extra people in town just on the contestant level to close to 400 extra people in town. I mean, you just got to think too that the money that you guys are giving us, we're returning that back. I mean, if you think about it, I talked to Susie Kenner at the chamber, and she has a economic impact calculator that she can use, just going off the number of people that we know we had in town and the rough number of spectators we had for the weekend, average per day. And she came up with a number that looks at just about $1 million economic impact to the community in 3 days. And so then we compared that to another city that has a rodeo that's roughly the same contestant load, roughly the same spectator load, and the same payout. And we're right there in line with them. So we did kind of check those numbers against other events of our size across the state. And I just wanted it to be known that because we've made a little bit of money, that money just keeps getting, reinvested next year. Hopefully we can have a $30,000 payout and gain another few hundred extra contestants to come here.
I think you spent it wisely, and you've done a great job bringing people to the community. And
Yeah.
when we didn't have the rodeo, it's noticeable. So
And that's another thing that I think as a rodeo club and our committee would kind of like to speak to. We saw what happened when the rodeo failed before, or didn't fail, I should say, but disappeared before. I just want you guys to know that if we hit a red year, there's going to be, I don't know that I can bring the rodeo back from that. There's not enough, I don't have money to try and prop it up myself, and going to these businesses 2 or 3 times a year, going to them once, I don't really like that. I definitely am not going to try and go to anybody twice in 1 year to give me more money.
Well,
But I appreciate, and we've always appreciated your guys' support. It was getting you guys to support us the first year, I feel was a detrimental chain for community members to see, hey, the city commission has stepped behind this. And if they're behind it, it makes business owners a little more that, hey, this is something that's going to come.
and we have a lot more groups asking for some money, so that's kind of why our thought process on it. If you have a successful, if you can get by, I mean. We're not trying to push you out, but we were just trying to think, where can we cut to do
Start
what.
seeing your face in here, man.
But we are supportive of you. 100%.
And we appreciate that. I just wanted to come speak to that a little bit, that there's the money made. Nobody personally profits off that money made.
We realize that.
Right.
But I think part of my thought process is that, if you're continually in the black, which is good, let's stay that way.
Yeah.
But if you're in a situation where you are red, then it's no problem with us to, help you with that.
Right.
That's my thought process. If
You're
still you're moving forward, or if you
Right.
break even, okay, cool.
Yeah.
But if you're not, and then we can go there again. You know what I mean? So
Well, and that's good to know kind of the thought process somewhat on that, because I do know that, I was part of the old rodeo, Lake Region Rodeo Association, watched how many years it went in the red, and having to sell Papa Murphy's pizzas downtown, and it's not fun. It's definitely not fun to do. And if knowing the thought process that, hey, if there's a year that we did struggle and maybe needed a little extra help, that we'd have us somewhere to come to say, hey, can you help us break even so we can try this again? That's good knowledge to have too.
Oh, we didn't take it all away.
No, definitely not. No, that would have been pretty rough.
Yeah, no.
I appreciate your phone calls and
Yeah.
concern and to address it.
Yeah, no, and we just felt we had to address it because if we didn't speak up and say
Mhm.
our bit on it, that, well, it would have been easy to next year say, hey, let's take another 5,000.
The one thing we don't want to do is
And I think the
lose.
reason why I said like, that you made money
Mhm,
was because when I sat in this chair,
mhm.
it sounded like that. You
Yeah,
said we made this money.
Right.
So I was like, well, you're making money on this deal.
Yeah.
And so I sit here now thinking, well, we don't help the Devils Run. We don't help certain other, things that are brought into town. And I do understand that your infancy,
Mhm,
you need this right now.
mhm.
And until you grow it to become something that you're established,
Right.
that we should be there to stand behind you. And I
Right.
think we'll go with that.
Yeah, no, that's, like I said, that's all good information to have for us to
Right.
come back, because there has been questions from sponsors that we've had, like, whoa, the city's backing out on you. It's like,
Right.
well, I
No,
gotta see
no,
what's
we're not
totally
gonna.
going on
Right.
here.
And
We don't want to speculate.
And I don't think there's anything wrong with rodeo. We funded it at a level of $15,000, right? Try to help get it off its feet, right? And it's been going good. It's been really successful. I don't think there's anything wrong with the city transitioning towards that highest level sponsorship level, right? You're up there at the top line, which is not quite where we're
It's not
at, the
ideal.
10,000, right? So we're kind of trying to phase to that. We're always going to sponsor the rodeo.
Mhm.
We're always going to have pride that it comes to our community, but we're going to be at that highest level sponsorship,
Yeah.
just like other organizations would be.
Yeah.
And I would also just add, we do as part of the budget, provide $25,000 to the chamber as kind of a city blanket sponsorship for all the events that they kind of put on, and like Rib Fest and all those sorts of things. So that every single time we have an event, they don't have to come here and ask for a city sponsorship. We just give them a blanket one. They put our logo on as a universal sponsor to these things.
So you're saying we probably do sponsor the Devils Run?
Probably already.
Yeah. Oh, yeah, we
do
Normally,
sponsor
some. There you go.
Yeah.
We do. You can say we do.
Yeah.
You can say we do, right?
The
In that
difference between
case,
Devils
I'll
Run
just
and
get out.
there too is Devils Run doesn't give out cash prizes or awards of any kind compared to
Yeah.
the rodeo.
We're missing our junior mayor though. What happened?
Well, she's at daycare today, and if I would have went and got her early, she would not want to go back. I'll bring her. We'll see
Okay,
her come and visit you
I'm
on
missing her.
Monday.
Just let her know I'm missing her.
All right, will do. Thank you, guys.
Okay, thanks, Brendan. Okay, is there anything else come before the commission? If not, meeting adjourned.